thank you, of community safety and emergency preparedness. And so far we've had home and property, personal safety, online safety awareness, residential emergency planning, family violence awareness, bushfire preparedness with the CFA, online safety awareness, farming and agricultural emergency planning, and the other talk with the ADF. And all of them so far have been really informative, and definitely something of interest there for everybody as we've gone through. A big thank you tonight to our 3 local EM groups, which is Mary Farrow from Emerald Community House. We've got Carolyn Spencer from the Upper Beaconsfield Association, and Rochelle Mickelson from the Cockatoo and Emergency Support Team. So thank you very much for taking the time to be with us tonight. We just really want to get to know a little bit more about what you do, and a little bit more about how you operate in the community and what you do. So Mary, if I can, I'll start with you. What type of support, what type of support or functions does the Emerald Community House provide for community, like as far as emergencies go?
Well, we tie in our activities into our everyday activities. So if I was to use the storm we had in June as an example, we try to keep operating in some capacity no matter what, because we have a lot of resources. We've got showers, we've got communications, we've got toilets, we've got power. I said power already. We've got off-grid power as well. We've got qualified childcare people. And we have a lot of staff, a lot of paid staff. So we're not so reliant on volunteers. Volunteers do a lot of extra work, but we're not reliant on them to operate. So when something goes wrong or there's a crisis, we can still be open and support people, whether it's feeding them. We've got several kitchens. We've got a free food resource because we're connected to Food Bank. We're in the process of opening a small community grocery to address food security. As we said to the state government, that you want food in the hands of the people responsible for it, not in the hands of just the commercial grocery store. So we try to address the basic things that people will need. We don't try to do extraordinary things, just the ordinary things.
Thanks, Mary. And just on that, to volunteer in your group, do you need any special skills? If we wanted to come and volunteer at the Emerald Community House, what special skills do you need?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of times it's just having warm bodies and somebody to talk to, because when something goes wrong, when people have experienced some kind of calamity, whether it's the storm or long-term power outages or trees down or bushfire or whatever it is, people want to talk. So often it's about just being there to let them talk and tell their story, even though it's the same story that everybody else is telling. They need to get it out of their system. They need to relay it, and they need you to hear it, and not just move them along the spectrum to the whatever resource they need. So being there to listen and help, that would be a good thing. So if we had some crisis. I mean, we don't really need volunteers to come down and do stuff every day because we have quite a lot of staff to manage the place. But if something did happen, to come along to help cook, to help listen to people, to find out what they need, those kinds of things. Our strength is in our flexibility to respond in and fill a gap. So we don't try to be something really stringent. We just wait, listen, find out what we need to do, and address that if we can, and participate in the crowd of resources that are all happening in the community. The community is quite a strong participant when something happens, and we don't try to be everything. We try to fill in the gaps.
Thanks, Mary. And Rochelle, from Cockatoo and Emerald Emergency Support Team, what type of support does your group provide in emergencies?
Yeah, thanks, Alicia. So we're the locals who help the locals. Similar to what Mary's just talked about, we harness the power of community. So using our local knowledge to target the help and resources to those very grassroots granular level where it's needed. So our volunteers all have working with children's checks, their first aid and psychological mental health first aid trained. We provide that personal pastoral care, that just the listening, the safe, familiar face. We also provide connections into local supports. We have 2 trailers, so the difference between us and a lot of other services is we go to wherever the people are. So if there's a group of people congregating at Trelaw Reserve or at Worrell Reserve or wherever it may be, provided it's safe for us to do so, we will attend with our equipment wherever the need is. So we have a catering trailer with barbecue, emergency water supplies and basic catering equipment. And then we have an emergency equipment trailer with portable generator, animal care and I guess more emergency related, after the event equipment. So we take care of things like the animal care, the logistics, portable power and charging, registering displaced people before the large services can come in, and really targeting that local knowledge. So coming back to the storms in June, we were made aware of people that were trapped either in their street or their houses, couldn't get a vehicle out, needed scripts from the chemist or needed emergency food or water supplies. We were able to utilise our network to actually make those things happen until people could be freed from their properties.
It's fantastic, Rochelle, thank you. And for the special skills, so if somebody wanted to join your organisation, what type of special skill set would they need?
Good communication skills are really important, and they need to like people. And other than that, we will teach you.
Fantastic, thank you. So Rochelle, your service is fairly reactive, and Mary, I see, has got just a business as usual and also a reactive component there. And Carolyn from the Upper Beaconsfield Association, could you tell us a bit about your organisation? I know that you work a lot in the resilience space.
Yeah, I'm certainly not an emergency manager. Many people see that I might work in that space, but I don't see myself as an emergency manager. Well, I do have postgrad qualifications, so I'm really theory bound. I was actually invited to be a part of the Upper Beaconsfield Association because of the work I do at Monash in disaster resilience and supporting the community. So I was actually invited to be a part of their resilience committee. And we started trying to think about how we could prepare people better for bushfires. So Cardinia Shire came on board and we had a Safe Together grant, and we worked with Cardinia Shire and the local people and agencies to do that. We also had a second grant with DELP, and which is a much bigger grant, where we put together a it's called a story map. So it's a story about how to prepare for bushfires, and that was it's sort of half launched at the moment. It will be launched very soon, where people can actually log in from anywhere. It is actually specific to Upper Beaconsfield, but other people will be able to access it, and I think the hope is that other communities can replicate the same thing for their own communities. So I'm really not as I say, I'm not really an emergency manager as such, but I am interested in resilience and mitigation and preparedness. So I've worked with UBA in the resilience space. We've also got our own fire guard, and I've been doing that now for probably 10 plus years. When what I call the old guard, the old guard, it's not meant to be derogatory, but it's to identify the people who actually went through Ash Wednesday. So they were very keen, they were very engaged. It was a very active fire guard when they were on it, but we've had a mass migration of the older people, and we have new people in, and to say it's stymied would be kind, I think. But it's very difficult to get people engaged in mitigation and preparation, or understanding perhaps what advanced recovery might be. Think about what you might need to do in case of an event. We've also got a deer group together, which I started this probably about 4 years ago because deer are a problem here. As a consequence of that, or not as a consequence of what I've done, but as a consequence of the deer problem, the Upper Beaconsfield community have put together the Cardinia Deer Management Coalition, which has actually got national recognition now. It's actually been on the ABC for its work that it's doing in terms of monitoring deer and trying to understand how many deer are in the area. Yeah, and I think that the last thing probably I would say is that we're very connected with Mary and her great work that she does at the Emerald Community House, so we try to support her as much as we can. Likewise, Mary supports us in that she comes to talk at our forums, where she's also got her activities listed in our compendium, and I think it's we've got about 40 stories there about various communities around Victoria that are trying to strengthen the resilience of their communities and get them focused on mitigation and preparation. So I'll stop there. I think that's enough. Oh no, I'll just say one more thing. We do have actually a grant that was actually an Australia Post grant. That was a $10,000 grant that we were successful in, which was intended to connect all the disparate groups in Upper Beaconsfield, so to bring them together, to connect, make good connections, build resilience. But COVID put a cap on that. We still have the $10,000, and we thought we could actually use it for something else, and they decided that they'd have a commercial dishwasher for the Learning Centre. But one person at Australia Post said yes, that was a good idea, but the second person we spoke to said no, you've got to go back to do what you originally can do. So with COVID we can't do it, so at the moment it's just hanging in the balance, and we'll wait and see what we can do with that. But it is intended to focus on preparedness and resilience.
Well, congratulations, Carolyn. Well, hopefully we get to hear more about that very, very soon. And just on that, Carolyn, are you actively looking for, or maybe perhaps not actively, but always accepting volunteers?
Oh, we would love volunteers. Where can we find them?
And what type of skill set would you be looking for someone who wanted to join?
Well, I think it's important for people to like people. Not everybody likes people or being part of a group, but people who like being a part of a group and serving their community in some way. I think the groups that I am a part of, we have a vast range of skills, really. For example, on the deer group, the experience I bring to there is just writing skills. I know nothing about deer, but when we've got a public-facing document, I go through that like with a fine-tooth comb. So, you know, writing skills can be one. Having good communication skills, being able to talk to the media, and a willingness to want to do something for your community.
It's fantastic. Thank you. I'll come back to Mary. Mary, in your volunteer space, not your employed space, but in the volunteer space, how much time do you spend a week volunteering? You're on mute, Mary.
Sorry, I had to do that. The dog started barking. You know, it is when you work in the communities. I mean, I started out as a volunteer. And I never did it in the United States. It was something that when I came here, I needed childcare, and I got pushed onto the committee. And the next thing you know, I was doing that for the rest of my life. And I'd never been on a committee before either. But you know, when you work in the community, you know, in a job, you certainly volunteer as much time as you get paid, because it is a very hungry beast. There's so much work, and you know, COVID just slapped on you know, 100% again on top of everything. So trying to continue to operate, it's a lifestyle, really. So I would say I'm volunteering pretty much every day, because when I'm not doing it, I'm thinking about it. And even if I go to the grocery store, someone will stop and talk to me about something, and we'll clog up the aisle of people trying to shop. So
perhaps
you know,
then I'll rephrase that then, for somebody who wants to, who's a budding volunteer and who would like to join. How many hours a week would they need to be?
Oh, look, you could volunteer for one day a week for 5 hours. You could volunteer to, like, if we were running the community market, which is an important resource because it's about small micro businesses, and you want to keep them going. It also is a strong skill to have if you're in a recovery, to be running a community market. To have somebody to volunteer to do that would be a dream. We have had a volunteer in the past, but you know, people can't do that forever. So it's much better to have a volunteer do it than to try to pay somebody to do it, because you know, you're trying to create a bit of income to do the other free things you do, like buying food from food bank or other kind of support services. So I would say that if it was once a month or one day a week or 4 hours or 3 hours, or even if you're coming to just do the gardening, those kinds of things help us understand where your talents are, where your strengths are. Are you going to show up when regularly? Those are important things when the chips get down and something happens, because we really need to build relationship with organizations when you're volunteering for them. And then you can take advantage of getting training, getting first aid training, getting food safety training, getting road traffic management training. These are things that we provide for our volunteers when they come to work with us regularly. And those are skills that are marketable, that improve your employment skills. You could end up working at council.
The benefits really are reciprocal then.
Yes, absolutely. So, and that's how we approach it. It's not just a single plane. It's multifaceted, so that this is about connecting with your community. A lot of times people will move up to the hills and they come into the community house to find out what's going on, and then they want to participate in something because they want to get to know people. And at the end of the day, this is all, as we all know, that handy word is connections. That's what makes all this stuff work, so that when something happens, somebody who can help you, or somebody who knows somebody. And same with council and how the council works with the community, that they facilitate these things and help foster them. But it's the community that is the most resourced.
Absolutely, Marion. And as you say, all that connection helps with resilience as well. It's a really solid foundation. Rochelle, thank you, Mary. Rochelle, how many hours a week would you say your volunteers contribute to the EST?
Yeah, a little bit hard to quantify per week because, as you said before, we're much more reactive to situations as they occur. But in terms of training and preparedness commitment, we run 4 trainings a year, so 1 for each season, plus the pre-summer season briefing, plus any additional qualifications that we might run, such as first aid, mental health first aid, or anything like that. So I guess if you averaged it out without event activations, you'd be probably looking at about an hour a week averaged over the year, but obviously it's done in pockets rather than once a week. And then it comes down to how often there's an event or how often the community needs support. So.
Absolutely, thank you. And just on that, how many hours a week do you think that you spend in the volunteer space?
Oh, that's a big number, I don't know. Between the Township Committee, the market, the EST, and a couple of other things I've got on the boil, I don't want to count, thanks.
And how long has your organisation been operating for?
So it actually was born a long time ago out of the Ash Wednesday event. The Emerald Emergency Planning Group was formed after that, and then the emergency support team came out of the Emerald Emergency Planning Group. Cockatoo, that was based in Emerald. Cockatoo decided 3 years ago that they wanted to have something similar of their own in Cockatoo. So we set that up in 2018. And then when Wayne Collins retired, we combined Emerald and Cockatoo together. So it's had a long history and a short history, depending on which bit you look at.
Thank you. And what would you say is the most enjoyable part of being part of the EST?
Connecting with community, being part of a vibrant community and making a difference.
Thank you. Caroline, I'm going to throw that question to you as well. So what do you get out of volunteering? What's the most enjoyable part?
I think one of the enjoyable parts for me is that because my work is very embedded at the university and it's very theoretical, having exposure to the community puts a whole different spin on what I do at work. So theoretically, we can say things work really easily, but when you actually start engaging with the community, it's a whole different ball game. And I think there's 2 aspects of that. There is you certainly increase your connections, and that's lovely. I've got to know a whole load of people up here. But it can also put you in an unfortunate position because not everybody always agrees with what you're doing. So you do have to be a little bit thick-skinned, and I can see Mary nodding her head ferociously, and Rochelle too. But for me, it has been putting, I guess, a practice element to my work, which strengthens my work, and I think my work strengthens what I do in the community. And it's just nice to be able to walk around Upper Beaconsfield and see a whole lot of people that I know now that I didn't know before I was volunteering.
Fantastic. What is one of the biggest challenges you face in your role?
In my role, finding volunteers, trying to sell the resilience message to communities that are living in our area is known as an extreme bushfire risk. So the challenge is trying to use a marketing thing, because I think that's really what we're trying to do, is market resilience. And I think what I've learned is I need to learn a lot about marketing. I need to change my degree, because I think that really is the biggest challenge, and we're really interested in trying to help people strengthen their ideas about bushfire, any emergency. You know, I was talking about COVID 5 years ago, and people looking at me as though, well, I wasn't talking about COVID, I was talking about pandemic. And so trying to get people to engage with some of these ideas about what an emergency is, what a risk is, I find that the most challenging, really.
Absolutely, Carolyn. So if we've got any marketers, specialist marketers watching this, get in touch with Carolyn. Mary, for you, what's one of the most enjoyable aspects of what you do?
Well, I'm an immigrant. I'm not from, from Australia, and moving here and being joining the committee and volunteering. That's really a part of Australia that is quintessential to this country. So I'm, like Caroline, you meet a whole lot of people, which benefits you in many ways, other than, than just you get something from it, but also it strengthens your links to other people, because that's how things are done in this country. It's through your networks and the people that you know. So that you're less isolated. I feel quite comfortable here. I love being able to commute for five kilometers. Really, when COVID happened, it was just like, okay, this is just another thing. So we felt quite confident in being able to operate and narrow our focus and stay. So it's the challenge of it, really, to running a community house now. It is, I feel, resource rich. The hardest part, you were asking Caroline, what do you find a challenge? And the challenge I find is trying to keep the field narrowed to what we're trying to do, and not let it go, big. There's so many grants out there, and there's so many opportunities to do things that, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. So, I've been asked sometimes to stop talking to people. Would you just stop talking to people? Because I come in, to work and say, hey, I've just talked to so-and-so, and we should do this, we've got another opportunity. So it's really, it's a very enjoyable thing. But like you said about the, not everybody agrees with you. You really need to learn how to deal with diverse opinions, and it's a slow process. As I get older, I'm less, I care less about it. Like, okay, right, you think this, that's fine. Everybody's got it, everybody's got something to say. So, but it is, I think anybody in Australia should and could get hooked up to some kind of community group that they like, and not be afraid of it. Because that's where your strength is. That mateship, volunteering is a huge contribution to your GDP.
Absolutely, and as we were saying before, it's that reciprocal benefit in so many ways. And so just on to you, Rochelle. There, what's something that you're most particularly proud of?
I think, because we're a reactive organisation, we don't have those regular links to something frequently happening. The way that we can pull together and activate very, very quickly to respond to what the community needs, and the fact that we've been able to do that despite the challenges of COVID and lots of other competing priorities, I'm particularly proud of our members for the way they do that.
And also, what's one of the biggest challenges that you face in the EST or running the EST?
Access to volunteers always. And I guess, again, I keep coming back to this, our purpose is to respond when there's a need. So keeping our volunteers engaged and connected when there's not a need. So we might go 12 months in between activations. How do we keep people connected, motivated, ready to go at a moment's notice without creating this really onerous training commitment that will also turn them away? It's a big balancing act.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carolyn, for you, what's your proudest moment so far with the UBA? What's a standout for you in your time with the UBA?
I'd have to say the bushfire mitigation grant that we've got, and we've put together the, as I said earlier, the story map. So it's quite a, I think the platform is actually called Story Map. And it's a story about Upper Beaconsfield. It talks about its biodiversity, its bush, its fire risk, its history, and it talks about, which is I guess one of the key reasons for doing it was to provide residents with information about what they can do to prepare for or prevent bushfires, while also looking after biodiversity. So if we look all the trees down, we have no biodiversity. So this was a program that ran for about 12 months, I guess, and Stuart was a part of this group too, and it really was a fabulous group. And I think the thing apart from being really proud of the final product, I didn't put it together. It was a community effort. We had lots of agency support. We had support from fire experts around the country, and they put it together. And I think that the proudest moment in that is that we never met. We did the whole thing online. So we've actually put together, we've actually saved a little bit of money from the grant so that we can actually at some point get together and actually see people in person.
That's wonderful. It's quite amazing feat that you've done there, but absolutely wonderful. Well done, Carolyn.
Well, not just well done me, it was well done.
Well done to everybody. Yes, absolutely. And just before I throw to an open Q&A, just for our guests, for our other guests tonight, Mary, what's a standout for you? What's something that you're most proud of working with Emerald Community House?
I think the thing that I'm most proud of that we achieved was renovating the old bakehouse behind the Commonwealth Bank that belongs to the bank that was a wreck, and we resurrected it as it's going to become a community grocery shortly. We've got funded to do that, and it's off grid, not reliant on power. So when the power goes out in Emerald, this place sits right in the middle of Emerald, and it still keeps ticking along. It's a symbol of what our whole mission is about, mainstreaming our strength, no matter what comes our way. So we can operate out of there. We can provide food, those basic needs like Maslow, in the Maslow hierarchy, that little bakehouse symbolizes partnerships with, a big commercial enterprise like Commonwealth Bank, resourcefulness, donation of community time and materials, funding agreements. The state government, local government, and the Commonwealth government have all contributed to making that building like a chocolate box generator in the middle of town. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Oh, absolutely. I think all three of you are absolutely amazing, and thank you for everything that you do and continue to do in our community. I'd just like to open up if there's any questions from any of our guests or attendees this evening. Hi, Jo.
Thanks, Alicia. I think the three of you, as a testament to what Alicia was saying before, are absolutely amazing. At some point, I've spoken to each of you or I've been in awe of all three of you, can I say, and even if I haven't actually worked with you closely, I've heard and seen the work that you do. Mary, you're right. How do you curb that enthusiasm to say stop and stop taking on more stuff? It's hard because, you turn a corner and someone else needs some help. And you're that person who can't resist, and so I applaud you for that. And very similar, the other two ladies. I know myself, volunteering is such an integral part to who we are and to the wider community. But what are you doing, knowing that, you know, COVID has had an impact? There's been some amazing people out there who've gone above and beyond, 3 we have here right now. But how are you going about to be able to recruit people in these really trying times to say, you know, it's not about having a skill set per se, or don't think that you have to be, you know, a brainiac. All we need is someone who can talk to someone can do some weeding, or someone who can just, whatever it is. How are you going about doing that, and is it working? Because I know I keep hearing the message, it's really difficult, and I'm hearing that in the wider community. So
shall I go first?
Sure.
Okay. You know, it's funny when you want volunteers to do something, you know, like you think, oh, we need some volunteers to do this. It can be hard to recruit them, but they tend to show up. You know, it's, you know, especially like with COVID, people that we haven't met before. COVID has provided quite an opportunity for people who want to contribute. This is part of the nature in disasters, that the people who haven't been impacted really want to give something. They want to do something. So sometimes they just show up and say, okay, what can I do? And so we will always find something for them to do. We would never turn them away, you know, no matter what it is. We'll try to find the thing that they like doing and fit them with that, whether it's cooking, and we'll get them with the food bank doing something, or, you know, if they want to help us with, you know, something else that is, you know, repairing something, or, you know, anything like that, to get them contributing, because that's part of their recovery, right? So we understand that. So it is when they come, it's being open to them. When it's like when you find it, you got to be ready. And the recruitment thing, you know, sometimes you've just got to start things, and then people will come along. So that's why I'm very happy that we have quite a lot of staff now. We pay people, you know, that's what we do. People come and volunteer, and they end up working at the community house, because we'll find a job, we'll get a grant, we'll say, right, well, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 5 days a week. So people contribute a lot to the Emerald Messenger, which is our monthly newspaper. And that's a good way to link. We've got some people who are elderly who write for the Messenger and have said to us, if it wasn't for this, I don't know what I'd be doing. You know, and we're so grateful that they can feel like they have a voice, and they feel like they're part of something, because that's what it's really about. It's not so much them coming and volunteer to do something with us. It's helping them do what they need to do.
So if I wanted to join, or if anybody out here tonight, or anybody watching wanted to join any of your organisations, how would they go about it?
Call us up, send us an email. That's how everybody else does it. Or stop me in the grocery store.
So just that easy, just get in touch.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's your local community, you know, that people, I mean, the way our center looks on the main street, some people come in, they go, I don't know why I came in here, but it looks like this is a place where I should come to find out about something, or I need something. You know, sometimes they just need money to go somewhere, get a petrol or something. So, you know, it is being available for when that shows up, and being ready to respond. So you're really responding to that, to their need to volunteer. Can't send them away. Never send them away.
I agree with that, Mary. I think in our case, it's about connecting people with their purpose, or something that makes them feel valued and a part of the community. And as much as COVID's made life quite challenging, I actually think we're in a really strong position at the moment. People have refound their respect and their value in their local communities, because they've had to become back closer to home, and they've got a new appreciation for what's around them and where they fit into that. And I think if you can actually connect people with that, and with what they can contribute to it, we can all only get stronger.
Thank you, Rochelle. Carolyn?
Yeah, I've put my hand up so I can get a word in all this conversation. I'm going to put a different spin on this, and this really comes from my professional experience. And at work, we have a term that is called spontaneous uninvited volunteers. And I think that came out of the Asian tsunami, because so many countries and so many people were affected by that people literally jumped on planes and wanted to help. So I think in terms of volunteering, I think when there is a disaster, it's I think a human instinct to want to go and help. So I know I think the humanitarian guidelines for overseas work has actually changed as a result of the Asian tsunami to prevent spontaneous uninvited volunteers, because they were creating more havoc than was needed. And it's also this concept of respecting sovereignty, that each country can actually very often manage on its own. And I think it's the same within communities too, because even with the storms, we saw the high level of activity from locals, from business people who just threw everything at trying to help people who are in distress. I think in terms of trying to get volunteers, I put that question to all the other listeners online at the moment, because I really don't know, because we've all, since I've been involved with Upper Beak, we've been looking for volunteers the whole time. So if anybody wants to come and join us, please let us know. We're not a secret organisation. We're very open. We'd love more people on board.
Wonderful, thank you. Stuart, you've got a hand up.
Yes, thank you, Alicia, and thank you, ladies, for sharing your stories. Having worked with all of you, I do know the great work that you do. So, and thank you for coming on tonight and sharing. Just on that topic, you know, if there's anyone watching, or when we're watching tonight or watching the recording later on, if you are interested in volunteering but you don't know how, please contact council as well, so we can connect you in with the appropriate group in your community. So mail at cardinia.vic.gov.au and type it, you know, into council saying you want to volunteer in an emergency group or a community group, and we will help you find the most appropriate group. But just sharing a little bit of my own experience, obviously hearing the ladies talking about volunteerism. Myself, I volunteer, I'm going to say in my spare time, but I wanted to touch on that because often one of the barriers you hear from people is, I don't have the time. And I want to say there never is enough time. You just have to find a way to include it in part of your life. And as all the speakers have said tonight, you gain so much by finding that spare time. And even if it's an hour, 2 hours a week, you will gain so much from that. So I do encourage those people, because I do hear it a lot. I just don't have the time. None of us do. The three ladies on the screen don't. But that you can find that time and you will gain so much from it. So I do encourage all those people who are in that category, find that 1 hour and you will gain so much from that. So I just wanted to add that little bit of a point there about there's, you know, we don't have spare time, we just find it to volunteer because it's such a great thing to do. So that was just my contribution, Lizzie, but keen for other questions from the floor, or maybe other people who volunteer who might want to share an experience. So just for the aid of the thing, I'm a CFA volunteer.
He set that up, I'm thinking. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Stuart. Did anybody else have any questions or anything to add from the floor? No, but on that, we'll just reiterate again. Oh, Mary?
I was just going to say, again, in regards to volunteering, you know, if you as a person want to volunteer for anything in your community, and look, it'll all strengthen emergency and disaster resilience stuff, because community groups are often get involved in this. But if you can link your volunteering to something you already like, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to do it. Like, you're already interested in the garden, so you volunteer someplace to help with their gardening, or you really like cooking, or you know, so you volunteer to do you know, community dining or trips to food bank, or you know, try to link it up with things that you know, like people who are animal lovers volunteer to do wildlife caring, you know, so you get training on that. If you try to link it to something that you already like, it'll really help you find the time to do it, because you'll want to do it.
You're absolutely right. And not only that, it's like doing a hobby, and you also get that social connection. Yes, Stuart?
Apologies, I am back. Apologies for that interruption, but I'd be keen to hear from some. I know tonight we've heard from obviously Rochelle, Mary and Carolyn are from our Hills communities, but I also want to point out there are many opportunities to volunteer in more urban environments, more built up environments, with other organisations. I know Joe through community connectedness, and there's Neighbourhood Watch or CFA or SES, and we've got some people on the line tonight who do that in more built up environments. And there's such same rich opportunities, and I'm going to dob in two people who I know on the call who do that. So either Callum or Kevin, did any of you don't have to put your camera on if you don't want to, but talk about your experiences with your volunteering in more built up environments? We've caught them on the hop here. We'll see if they're ready.
I'll go, Stu.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, it's I think it's been interesting listening to different perspectives. I live obviously in a more urban environment, but have obviously growing up lived in more rural environments, and the demand of volunteering can differ a little bit, and the tasks that you do in the different environments. But that I think everything hearing from tonight, that connectedness to the community, and meeting people from all different walks of life. And look, they might not be people you necessarily see again, because in the more urban environment, there's so many people. But, you spend half an hour with them, you hear their story, you're able to help them out. It's really, really rewarding. So it's a bigger community in that sense. You don't probably develop those closer relationships because just to the numbers of people, but it is really, really rewarding in that sense in volunteering in a more urbanised environment. And I'd also say there's just as many, if not more, opportunities available if you are in an urbanised environment. So, plenty of opportunities to get involved. And I think people can be apprehensive towards volunteering, particularly if it's their first time volunteering. And I would just say, never be afraid to say that to the group you're volunteering with. So go, look, this is my first time, and be realistic. I think I can help you out with this, and have those conversations with them. Definitely don't feel like it's a one-way street. You have to give. Hopefully, you're also getting a bit back out of it in personal development or rewarding experiences or meeting new people. So, yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. Carolyn, is that a legacy hand or is it?
No, it's a new hand. I'm trying to put it down. There you go. I think it's down. I was going to add too that in volunteering is a great opportunity to meet people. We've been talking about that, but I think particularly why it's important now is because social isolation is like the new smoking today. There's a growing literature about how isolated people are becoming and how disconnected they are. And so volunteering actually gives people that opportunity to come out, show their face to a real person, not a digital person or a digital screen, and have a real connection with real people. And I think you have the benefit of learning who's in your neighbourhood. With our Fireguard, I think while it's not terribly active, if there is ever anything that goes wrong in the community, that's when or in our little area, that's when it really fires up. Excuse the pun. But we've had a number of incidents where because we are connected, we actually probably saved a man's life because he actually got run over, or he rolled his lawnmower, and he was actually stuck under his lawnmower for many hours in the heat of the day. And the only reason he was saved was because a young boy was walking home, and he heard the cries. So the person knew the time that school kids would be coming home, so he started to call for help. And when the schoolboy then ran round, and that's when the Fireguard came up. Nobody was actually at home that day, but when we all arrived there, I think there were 2 police cars, 2 SES, 2 ambulances, the police, everything was there. It was like a very active event. So he was saved. And another rather more interesting one was there'd been an accident on the Emerald Beaconsfield Road, and somebody got away and they ran from the accident, and one of the local residents actually cornered this fellow. I think he was turned out he was an escaped prisoner and quite dangerous. But they caught him. So, you know, had we not had the fire garden, those just that you know, even a little connection, those things wouldn't have happened. So I think it's really important to have those connections, and we've been able to get through all of these connections really through volunteering, and that's really, I think, they're great examples of how you can strengthen your connections within the community and also strengthen others within the community as well, because they know who they can ask for help. I think it would be awful to be in any sort of event, whether it be storm or flood or fire, and to have lots of things happening and not knowing the people around you. You need to have a trusted face. You need to have a trusted relationship and know that there are people that you can go and ask for help from. And volunteering absolutely gives you that connection to do that.
Oh, absolutely, Carolyn. I think a big takeaway that I've heard from all three of you is that really you can volunteer as much time or as little time as you want, and really tailor that volunteering around yourself. It doesn't matter what skill set you've got, whether it be IT, you're a good writer, you're a great gardener, you're good with people. You're good at making a cup of tea, you're great in emergency situations. There's a whole, really volunteering is for everybody. That's my real takeaway. Did anybody else have any other questions or anything to add? Cal, did you want to just?
Yeah, thanks, Alicia. Yeah, because Stu dubbed me in earlier, talk about my experience. So I work with Alicia and Stu and Kevin in the emergency management role, but I also volunteer with 2 organisations. I might be a bit crazy there, but I volunteer for both the CFA and the SES. So I've been with CFA for about 25 years, and really through CFA, I've really made heaps of friends. It's really been you know, friends that I've known now for 25 years that it's still keep in touch with, and people that even have moved along out of the area and still keep in touch. So yeah, it's sort of a really key part of the community. So I'm in a very urban area. I'm in Edithvale, which is a fair way out of the Shire, but you know, even in such a big area, which is probably akin to something like, you know, Beaconsfield or Pakenham or something like that, you know, there are those opportunities to join the organisation and really meet people, you know, meet your community, be a part of the community, and learn some great skills. I think that's what comes down to it. But yeah, I'd highly encourage anyone who was interested in volunteering and take that step. You know, it's always a big step, and you can be very apprehensive about taking that step. But once you're in, everyone, well, I think, yeah, the vast majority of people will make you feel very welcome. And you know, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge, but you'll get there.
I mirror your sentiment there, Cal. Thank you for that. And just on a point that we were talking about before about what your particular interests are, I'm the only one in our team that's not with the CFA or SES, and my particular interest is in the environment. So I volunteer for a local environmental organisation, and I've got a different range of skills. I'm not an environmental expert. I know a little bit, but I help them with IT and grant applications and part education and other things like that. So absolutely, there's something there for everybody, and depending on what your interest in is. I've met some great people, and that helps with my connection to community as well. So if there was nothing else from anybody from the floor, just I'll give one last opportunity. For anybody? No, I'll just take this opportunity to say, Carolyn, thank you so much. Mary, thank you so much. And Rochelle, thank you so much for your already very valuable time that we're taking much more of. I really appreciate you coming on tonight. And also a big thank you to Stuart and Joe for putting together this series, and also for the promo and lots of work that's gone in behind the scenes. Thank you everybody for coming tonight as well, and we hope you've enjoyed them. The sessions will be available online in the coming weeks, so you feel free to share them with your groups or link other people into them. Thank you everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for